Would simply big cats be enough to start a whole zoo, making something I would be proud of, with many different enclosures for the different big cats? Anyway, let's get straight into it. And here is the entrance. I've already done it up. The name of the zoo is Possum. We've already got staff sorted as well. We've got food and drinks for the guests for when they finally start coming in, and a bunch of seating areas for them as well. So this entrance area is already done. Now onto our first animal, which is going to be the Bengal tiger. Now to make it interesting, I used null barriers all the way around, and it was like a challenge, and I decided to put these all around. Now this little fence was nice and I really enjoyed using it, and then on the back walls I decided to do concrete, just because obviously the guests wouldn't be seeing these as much. And then it was onto a moat. Now I was going to do a water moat with just filling it with water. However, the Bengal tigers can swim and they ended up trying to escape. Well, now it was time to get our male and female Bengal tiger in and start doing up their enclosure just for them. Well, having a look, they are clearly unhappy with their surroundings, so I quickly fixed that. I added plenty of dirt all around, and that was pretty much the easiest thing. Now it was on to adding some plants around, since it was looking really empty in this place. So we started with some trees, nothing too fancy, just blocking off the little bits that the Bengal tigers could access so they didn't escape. Now in the middle of their enclosure I wanted to make them a little shelter, so I quickly summed up a basic shelter. I put a wall all the way around, just so they'd be a bit elevated and they'd have their own safe space. I added the bedding in, and then it was time to add the roof, and the roof went fine. Now this is how the shelter looked. It was looking a bit basic, so I decided I'd put some climbing frame stuff on top so they could access this, and this is how it was looking so far. Of course it was just sticking out like a sore thumb, so I decided to add plenty of greenery around it just so it'd blend in a little bit more and it wasn't such a eyesore, since the main focus was the tigers. Then it was adding some more trees in, some little plants around, and it was looking quite nice. Now it was time for the enrichment items, and I added plenty of these all around. Then it was time to the path, obviously so guests could get a better view. And here are the Bengal tigers. I ended up adding some water for them and got rid of the water around the moat, as like I say, they can escape. And it was looking quite nice. They had plenty of climbing frames, and especially on the top of the shelter as well. And they was both happy with their new home. And the guests were also about to be loving this new place. As you can see, business is booming. The West African lion was the second choice. Once again, we used our null barriers, as they are one of my favourite things to use. Now, I went with this fence because I originally had plans to have a path going along this side. However, I decided to change my mind and ended up using an elevated path. This fence was utterly useless to use, but oh well, it still looked nice. Then I wanted the ground to have a bit of level to it, so I wanted it to have a top half and a bottom half, which I am doing right now. I'm smoothing it out so the lions could access it. Now our lions were brought in, and with lions there can be a lot of females in here, so of course I bought a lot of females and just one male. And now it was time to do their terrain. So they mainly just wanted some short grass, so I quickly got on to adding that mostly everywhere, just everywhere I could. And their terrain was pretty much okay. They just wanted some rock, so I did it on the little edge. Now it was on to adding some decorations, but not too much. I added 2 trees just so it wasn't so plain. I added a body of water so they could get a natural drink. And now it was time for some enrichment items. So of course, lions can be climbers, so I thought I'd add a little climbing frame just here. And then I decided to decorate more of the enclosure just to make it look a lot better, and so my animals would be happy. And then it was adding some more enrichment items, like food enrichment, sprinklers, all things to keep them happy. Of course, some scratching trees as well, because who doesn't love a scratching tree? Now it was time for their shelter, so I did it out of wood. Originally I was going to do it out of concrete, but I didn't like it. And then I just raised it up. I wanted to make sure there was enough room for all the lions in here. And then it got onto their roof, and their roof was a pain, and I mean a pain. Because as I was doing it, I realised they could jump up over it, so it was just a nightmare to do. I added the bed in, and the roof looked a bit weird, I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, it didn't get much better from here. Anyway, then we went on to the paths, and I wanted an elevated path so you could see everything in the enclosure. And then I got to this little end bit and just span it around so it connected back up. And then this was how the lions were looking. The enclosure looked nice, and it was very spacious. I added the education boards, education speakers, and of course donation bins because we love their money. And this attraction was done. Guess we're about to come view the new additions, and even wanted the prices higher. So I quickly got on to doing that, and the reviews of the zoo was quite good. And the zoo was shaping up quite nicely. We had a bunch of things for the guests to do. They had plenty of food and drinks, and plenty of animals now to see. So to bring more guests in, we did the cheetahs, and I went with using this fence. Now I really enjoyed this fence, just because of its colour mainly. But then we did the same thing, we did the background as concrete, and we did a water moat as well. And we got the cheetahs in, we got a male and a female. Then of course we had to make sure they couldn't escape, because I was sick about my animals trying to escape, but they was all fine, so we quickly got on to doing their enclosure for them, making sure it was to their liking. Then it was the plants. So I went about and dotted a few trees around, making sure it didn't look too empty, and then I wanted to decorate near the water, so I put rocks all around, and it just made the enclosure look a lot nicer. And it also meant that my animals wouldn't try to escape. But that's not the point, it looked really, really nice. I really liked this actually. Then it was that time for their shelter. Now I wanted the cheetahs to be able to have a nice little shelter that they could just come in when they felt stressed or just to relax in really. I ended up moving the shelter near the back of the enclosure instead, since I didn't want it to be too close to the guests, because cheetahs can get a bit shy, I'm not going to lie about that. So once I got a position I was happy with, it was now onto the roof, and it was just a bunch of these placed over and over again, so they'd be very comfortable. And then we added the bed in, and this is how it was looking so far. And then it was time to just add more plants, make it look a lot better and lively. And I added a lot of small plants, since cheetahs don't like too many plants in their enclosure. So it was just dotting things around really. And then I wanted to decorate a bit of the rocks, but not too many. Then it was their enrichment items, so I added scratching posts, I added everything they could ask for really, just to keep them entertained whilst being in their new home. And this is how it was looking so far. I absolutely loved it. And I'm pretty sure the cheetahs did too. Of course I added the education and the benches and the bins and everything we need to keep this zoo happy and going well. We was now starting a different enclosure, so of course I did concrete where the staff gate was. I decided to raise it up just because I didn't want the animal to try and climb out. And then it was time to use another sort of fence piece, and I ended up using this, and I put it all the way around until it eventually all connected, and this is what we had so far. It was quite spacious. So welcome the African leopard. So we got these guys in, we started doing their terrain, making sure they was happy, and once again I went with a moat because they keep the big cats in. So then it was on to decoration, and just plotted a few trees, a few enrichment items, wanted to keep them entertained. Then of course we added some scratching posts, our favourite, and then we added some climbing frames. So I added this in the centre of the enclosure. Then at the back of the enclosure I decided to do their little shelter, and of course I didn't want them to climb over this, so I added rocks all around it, and it might have looked a bit bad, but it made do for them. So now it was just on to adding some more decoration. I wanted to decorate the water and just add as many plants as I could, but of course we still wanted the guests to have a good view. And here's how the enclosure turned out. I think it looks great, especially for the new big cats. The guests were loving it. I added education all around so the guests knew what was going on, and everyone was happy. And the park was looking amazing. Everyone was enjoying all the different animals, and I couldn't ask for anything better. Before finishing up, I thought I'd add a new toilet and a few more facilities for my guests to enjoy, just so to give them another reason to come over this way. And we had successfully made a zoo full of just big cats, and everyone was enjoying it. The zoo went amazing. Everything went really well. I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.